the British royal family continues to navigate a landscape marked by persistent drama and internal strife, generating significant public discourse and at times profoundly shaking trust in the institution itself. Veteran royal reporters, some of whom have chronicled the monarchy since the early 1990s, recall periods of direct engagement and occasional pushback from the palace. An illustrative instance from earlier decades involved Princess Diana, who, understanding the intricacies of the media machine, directly confronted a reporter, demanding his dismissal from the editor of the Daily Express, Sir Nicholas Lloyd. The editor, however, declined the request, humorously suggesting the reporter must have been performing his duties effectively. In contemporary times, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been observed by some attempting to emulate Princess Diana's approach media engagement. However, their efforts are frequently perceived as missteps. Diana, described as a natural who operated without a predefined strategy, experienced both successes and failures, yet her authenticity ultimately resonated with the public. In contrast, the Duke of Sussex has consistently been characterized as an individual prone to volatility, having reportedly lost his composure with reporters on multiple occasions. Similarly, the Duchess of Sussex, an actress by profession, appeared some observers during her time in the United Kingdom be consistently presenting a carefully constructed persona. Discussions have reportedly circulated regarding a purported initiative, internally designated as Project Thor, aimed at facilitating the reintegration of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in the royal framework. Sources suggest that various individuals are actively engaged in behind-the-scenes negotiations to achieve this outcome. The Duke of Sussex has also reportedly engaged a high-cost public relations advisor who previously garnered commendation for their work on the Invictus Games, though such arrangements are often noted for their transient nature. Despite these efforts, Project Thor is largely dismissed as unrealistic by many observers. The prevailing view suggests that a return for the couple remains unfeasible as long as their current demands persist and existing familial rifts remain unaddressed. While the king, in his capacity as a father, would undoubtedly welcome his son back, and has not yet had sufficient opportunity to establish a relationship with his daughter-in-law or his grandchildren, the underlying situation has transitioned in a significantly altered phase. The Duke of Sussex's memoir, in which he openly criticised his family, has been widely interpreted as an act of betrayal. Furthermore, the timing of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's interview with Oprah Winfrey, conducted while the Duke of Edinburgh was critically ill, remains a point of contention and is not easily overlooked. The severity of the Duke's criticisms, particularly those directed at Catherine, Princess of Wales, who is the future Queen, and his brother, has caused lasting damage, with allegations of bullying specifically refuted by the Prince of Wales. The widely publicised Battle of the Dog Bowl, though seemingly minor when compared historical events, is considered an incident unlikely to be forgotten. An additional consideration is the King's current health. As he is living with cancer at some future point, the Prince of Wales will ascend the throne. It is deemed improbable that the future king would be inclined to mend relations with an individual who has publicly attacked his wife, particularly given her own recent cancer diagnosis. Should the Duke of Sussex secure the reinstatement of his taxpayer-funded security, it would eliminate the requirement for him to provide the customary 30-day notice period for his movements, allowing him unrestricted travel. This potential development presents a considerable challenge for the press, given that negative news often generates greater public interest, and the Sussexes are frequently associated with such coverage. In stark contrast, the Prince and Princess of Wales are consistently depicted as individuals dedicated a life of public service, having maintained an almost unblemished public record. Despite this, mainstream media outlets frequently appear to favour reporting on negative narratives. The landscape of legacy media is undergoing profound and rapid transformation, a stark departure from the peak era of print journalism, when publications such as The Sun regularly sold millions of copies daily. They are often fortunate to achieve sales of 500,000. Veteran journalists from earlier periods recall a time when they wielded considerable influence and were largely unconcerned with the palace's opinions. If a SRI was deemed accurate, it would be published, with efforts made to adhere as closely as possible the truth. The Duke of Sussex often refers his truth, Yet journalists are constrained by the veracity and access provided by their sources. Some sources have proven invaluable over the years, exemplified by the groundbreaking report that the then Prince of Wales intended marry Camilla, marking the first instance in history where a journalist revealed a royal engagement. The essence of journalism lies in cultivating trusted contacts and maintaining their confidence. However, the hacking inquiry compelled many distinguished journalists compromise their sources, leading to potentially devastating consequences. While phone hacking is universally condemned as a form of unethical and superficial journalism, the profession itself cannot be suppressed simply because elements of the British establishment find it inconvenient. Freedom of the press stands as one of the 4 foundational pillars of the British establishment. Presently, the Duke of Sussex's ongoing legal actions against newspapers such as the Daily Mail, which is regarded as one of the last bastions of the traditional Fleet Street, and the Sun, are creating widespread animosity within the media sector. If he anticipates a warm reception upon his potential return after launching an extensive campaign against the press, this perception is considered misinformed. While some may deem his campaign justifiable, it is effectively targeting a Fleet Street that has already endured significant challenges. His actions are not only perceived as being rooted in the past, specifically in the tragic and accidental death of his mother, but also as an attempt to unilaterally reform the press for the benefit of the public. Many of the legal cases he is pursuing date back 15 or 20 years, a period preceding a complete transformation of the media landscape. Such efforts are likened attempting reenact a First World War cavalry charge during the Second World War, highlighting their anachronistic nature. The Duke of Sussex's legal proceedings against associated newspapers have also been framed as part of a more extensive strategy aimed at dismantling the Royal Rota system. The Royal Rota, however, is not a clandestine or malicious structure, rather, it functions as a pragmatic arrangement. For instance, when a member of the royal family, such as the Princess of Wales, undertakes a visit a child suffering from a serious illness, it would be impractical and disruptive have 15 photographers simultaneously present in the confined space. Instead, a single designated photographer captures the essential moments, and these images are then distributed all accredited members of the Rota. This system ensures comprehensive media coverage while simultaneously upholding dignity and order during sensitive engagements. Historically, distinct photographers were assigned for black and white newspaper images and colour magazine spreads. Though this differentiation has largely faded, the Rota serves as a mutual convenience, benefiting both the royal family and the media by facilitating optimal coverage. A large contingent of journalists crammed in an event space would neither produce a high-quality report nor foster a genuine understanding of the proceedings. Official briefings provided by the palace are seldom critical in nature, thus placing the onus on journalists to interpret the often overly positive material and uncover deeper truths through their independent sources. The Duke of Sussex is widely believed to lack a comprehensive understanding of this established system. Commentars have candidly suggested that his academic performance at College indicated a limited grasp of complex subjects, implying that his art teacher may have been overly generous in assessment and that he is not intellectually incisive. In contrast, his brother is regarded as a highly intelligent individual. The Duke of Sussex reportedly holds a conviction that he comprehends intricate matters, albeit from a limited, military-informed perspective, a belief that is not widely shared. During a of MI6, an experience typically afforded senior royals, the Duke, then a captain, reportedly interjected comments during discussions involving military intelligence officials and generals on serious subjects. Captains are generally not expected to contribute such high-level deliberations, and he was reportedly informed that these matters exceeded his rank and purview. While his military service was valorous and merits recognition, this does not, in the view of some, grant him the right to overstep established protocols. The controversy surrounding the Royal Rota has been further exacerbated by instances where journalists have been barred from the International Rota for reporting on the King's cancer diagnosis, a decision some critics have deemed regrettable. The practice of excluding individuals from rotas is broadly considered illogical. On a separate occasion, the Duke of Sussex's own press operation reportedly attempted to dictate terms journalists, specifying their positioning and how coverage should proceed. This attempt was met with outright refusal, with journalists asserting that the Sussexes, no longer working royals, lacked the authority to impose such conditions. The extent of control sought by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex is noteworthy, with critics frequently characterising it as hypocrisy. The Duke of Sussex has consistently criticised both the royal family and the press, yet he and the Duchess remain heavily reliant on media exposure. Both individuals are reportedly intensely preoccupied with press coverage and meticulously managing their public narrative, expressing a desire to select specific journalists who they believe can advance their public profile. An incident that reportedly offers insight in the Duke of Sussex's character dates back an investigation by the News of the World. The prince had reportedly recorded himself racially abusing a fellow cadet at Sandhurst, mimicking him in a manner described as army style, and subsequently distributed the footage among his friends. One of these friends, evidently not finding the material humorous, reportedly provided the tape to the newspaper. When confronted later at the Intercontinental Hotel, the Duke of Sussex reportedly approached the reporter, pointed his finger and demanded, "Where's your secret camera?" A gesture reminiscent of his late mother, his face reportedly flushed red, a visible sign of embarrassment. He received a direct response with all due respect. It was his own cameras, his own racist comment, and one of his own acquaintances who had distributed the footage, implying he should not blame the messenger. The Duke of Sussex is known for his impetuous nature. In the aftermath of this confrontation, a letter of apology was reportedly issued for addressing him as mate, on the grounds that such familiarity was deemed inappropriate. The Duke of Sussex's testimony in court concerning journalist Charlotte Griffiths has attracted particular scrutiny. He asserted that he was unaware of her identity or her employment at the Mail on Sunday. However, documentary evidence presented in court offered a contrasting account. The events in question took place in 2011, when the Duke was 27 years old, single, and approximately 5 years prior his meeting with Meghan Markle. His relationship with Chelsea Davy had concluded, and Cressida Bonus had not yet entered his life. By all accounts, he was a young man with considerable free time and a network of friends eager to fill it. His social calendar regularly featured country house weekends and Ibiza parties that extended in the early hours, with at least one instance where he remained awake until dawn before attending an engagement related, trooping the colour the subsequent morning. He maintained an active social life and enjoyed a degree of personal freedom. The trial, which spanned 11 weeks, concluded its evidence phase on the 31st of March 2026. Associated newspapers presented a series of Facebook messages to exchange between the Duke of Sussex and Miss Griffiths during December 2011 and January 2012. The initial message, dated the 4th of December 2011, attributed the Duke of Sussex, read, "It's H, in case you were confused by the name and the picture. X." Griffiths' reply stated, "Hello Mr. Mischief, what fun weekend of naughtiness. Can't we all get up no good in the countryside every weekend? Damn it. Smooches, CG String." CG String was identified as her nickname, indicating the Duke of Sussex was addressing Charlotte Griffiths by this moniker. In a subsequent message admitted as evidence, he reportedly addressed her as Sugar. He referred a recent gathering as without doubt the best of those weekends I've been, further adding, "What a crowd. Never laughed so much in 24 hours. He then inquired about his assigned nickname, asking, "Mr. Mischief, how do I get that title? I was surely no worse than anyone else." This exchange was deemed noteworthy because he had previously claimed no recollection of ever having heard the name Mr. Mischief. Furthermore, the quality of spelling evident in the messages prompted questions regarding the academic standards of N College at the time. In a message dated the 22nd of January, a date deemed significant, Griffiths communicated that the Duke had been missed at a mutual friend's residence the preceding weekend and that she was nearby, observing a snow polo match in support of his Centre Bail charity. The attributed response from the Duke of Sussex stated, "I wish I was there, sugar, but unfortunately stuck in Cornwall doing army stuff. Oh dear, oh Harry, army stuff." He concluded the message with, "Hope you're really well, Griff, Miss Mossel Snuggles. I'm off comms all week in case you think I'm being rude. Keep me posted, XXK." The court also heard that he had provided Griffiths with his private telephone number, suggesting the possibility of unrecorded telephone conversations. Annie White KC, the barrister representing Associated Newspapers, openly acknowledged in court an earlier error, clarifying that Mr. Mischief was a name bestowed upon the Duke of Sussex by Griffiths, not a self-designation. This correction was duly made and officially recorded. The presented messages did not definitively resolve questions of chronology. In her witness statement submitted earlier in March, Griffiths affirmed that her last social encounter with the Duke of Sussex occurred in June 2012. She described meeting his friends, including Arthur Landon, at Ibiza house parties, having spent time on the island with him in both 2011 and 2012. And, having studied at the University of Leeds concurrently with Chelsea Davy, she continued to socialise within overlapping circles. The Duke of Sussex had informed the court that contact ceased the day after the singular party where they had met. However, the messages entered in evidence covered a period of at least 7 weeks, and the social interactions described by Griffiths under oath extended June 2012, approximately 18 months, beyond the Duke of Sussex's stated timeline. One might charitably infer that the Duke exhibited a limited awareness of his social circle, a network of friends and acquaintances who moved fluidly between private life and the press, without any indication of phone tapping having occurred within his organisation. The publisher consistently maintained that its journalism relied on legitimate sources and carefully cultivated contacts, dismissing the allegations as preposterous. The Duke of Sussex denied that leaks originated from his inner circle, suggesting instead that sources were employed as a pretext for attributed quotes. During cross-examination, it was put the Duke that he had twice initiated contact with Rebecca English, the Daily Mail's royal correspondent, through his private secretary. These instances involved expressing gratitude for a Shry correction and offering condolences the royal rota. He acknowledged these interactions. He characterized those outside the royal rota as individuals he was compelled work with, a claim disputed by journalists who accompanied him on engagements and recalled the reality differently. The court also heard that on one occasion, English was present at the residence of one of the nation's wealthiest individuals, indicating her professional success. Muster Justice Nicklin, who presided over the 11-week trial, has yet deliver his written judgment, meaning no finding of fact has been formally made. The sworn evidence provided by the Duke of Sussex in January 2026 and the documents produced on the 31st of March 2026 present differing narratives. The inconsistencies between these accounts are now part of the public record, having been scrutinised in open court before a High Court judge during proceedings initiated by the Duke of Sussex himself. The central question remains whether, 14 years later, he could accurately recall the events. The verdict is currently awaited, with legal expenses for the case estimated have reached a substantial £40 million. Concerns about financial stability within the royal household have long been a preoccupation for the king and his courtiers, a recurring theme in discussions within court circles. While the king benefits from the substantial resources of the Duchy of Lancaster, it is anticipated that measures, possibly including the sale of valuable artworks, may eventually be necessary to address financial considerations. Regarding the king's personal health, there is widespread genuine respect and an outpouring of well wishes for a comprehensive and swift recovery. His decision to publicly disclose his cancer diagnosis was widely lauded as appropriate, contributing significantly public awareness and normalizing conversations around the disease. Indeed, this openness reportedly prompted others seek medical testing, leading reassuring results. However, it is considered possible to compartmentalize expressions of goodwill, while still critically evaluating actions perceived as problematic. For an extended period, when the king held the title of Prince of Wales, he was consistently followed by a specific reporter at a time when many other journalists were primarily focused on populist narratives that guaranteed sales. This reporter accompanied him on numerous international tours, including Australia and Vanuatu, developing a reasonably close understanding of the then prince. An interview was secured on a return flight from Vanuatu, intended to be brief, but ultimately extending for the majority of the journey. This extensive conversation formed the basis of a book, which, for those who delved beyond the immediate front-page commentary, offered insights in the prince's character. A wide array of subjects was discussed, fostering genuine respect for him. When an updated biography was subsequently published, concerns arose that certain sections might have been unduly critical. Nevertheless, the writer was later invited to join a royal heir of the Caribbean. On his 55th birthday, the king personally paused, shake the reporter's hand and extend birthday wishes, a moment captured by photographers. Naturally, there is an inherent awareness of not wishing unduly displease the monarch, as professional livelihoods are dependent on such relationships. The so-called Sussex Squad frequently directs online abuse at individuals, employing derogatory terms such as fat and jowly, but such insults from uninformed individuals are largely dismissed as inconsequential. A certain measure of personal affection exists for Sarah, Duchess of York. Although it is acknowledged that most criticisms directed towards her are well-founded, the News of the World's expose on the cash for access scandal revealed an extraordinary depth of information. Sarah, Duchess of York, is frequently perceived as a social climber who engaged in gaslighting, bullying, and manipulation of her position, discredit Virginia Giuffre during her appearance on US television. There are concerns that she potentially exposed her daughter's risk around a convicted sex offender during their younger years, taking them Florida and New York. She consistently presents herself as a victim, despite having managed vast sums of money through her bank accounts. She appears to possess no particular discernible talent and is arguably a pathological liar who has leveraged both mainstream media and the royal family to rehabilitate her public image. Furthermore, she collaborated with Jeffrey Epstein in connection with the cash for access scandal. Despite these serious concerns, a personal anecdote recalls a charity expedition Mount Everest with Sarah, Duchess of York, which successfully raised substantial funds for individuals in dire circumstances and provided participants with remarkable life experiences. During a lunch at a ski resort, she was consistently friendly, pleasant, and notably less aloof than other members of the family, capable of engaging in stimulating conversation. However, these positive personal interactions are not considered absolve her of her past actions. The collective impact of her conduct is deemed deeply problematic. Her association with Epstein necessitates a thorough self-examination, and the most constructive path forward would involve her testifying before Congress, disclosing what she knew and when, even if such testimony were implicate her former husband. While it is considered improbable that she was involved in trafficking the same extent as Ghislaine Maxwell, the undeniable facts of her acquaintance with Epstein, his financial influence and his provision of money, her remain profoundly troubling. The shared experiences during trips, including sries from places like Namche Bazaar, the Sherpa capital, offered a unique perspective on life in the Himalayan foothills, and these experiences may have contributed a somewhat idealized personal view of her. The disclosures concerning the Duke of York, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell are profoundly disturbing. A significant sry broke regarding an event held at Sandringham, where the Duke of York hosted a party attended by both Epstein and Maxwell. Upon the guests' arrival, the Queen's residence was reportedly transformed in an environment resembling a Playboy mansion, with attendees receiving party bags containing poppers, sex wise-airs, and condoms. The bathrooms were not only sucked with conventional eyeletries, but also with poppers, lubricant, and condoms. This sry published and subsequently gained considerable traction following the release of the Epstein files, which included a photograph depicting the Duke of York lying across women whose faces were redacted, alongside Maxwell. It remains deeply troubling that, in a sex scandal involving numerous affluent, predery older men and multiple young women, the sole individual have been incarcerated thus far is a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein himself died in prison, leaving the broader issue of accountability for the wealthy and powerful unresolved. The renewed public interest in these events led a surge in sales for The Windsor Legacy, a book that contained this particular sry. It is a striking thought that only a few weeks later, the Queen would have arrived at Sandringham, dressed in her characteristic twin set and pearls, ready for Christmas with her corgis. One can only be relieved that the corgis were not investigating and uncovering stray items on the floor. The late Queen is frequently portrayed as an exceptionally astute monarch, meticulously informed on every detail, yet an alternative narrative suggests she remained unaware of the full extent of certain situations. Whistleblowers from within the palace have indicated that established protocol compelled them suppress particular matters, Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein reportedly possessed unrestricted access to the palace's various areas. Caroline Clark, who was employed by the Duke of York, appears have vanished from public view, and is believed holds significant information that requires clarification. While staff members claimed ignorance regarding these events, such assertions are widely considered implausible. Nevertheless, it is important to acknowledge that the Queen, being in her 90s, increasingly delegated responsibilities to the then Prince of Wales, now King, although final decisions would ultimately have rested with her. The King was reportedly assured very firmly by his brother that he had committed none of the alleged actions, a claim that continues to pose a significant problem for the monarchy moving forward. Now that he is King, any legal representative for the Duke of York could potentially demand that the monarch provide evidence. However, because the King cannot be legally compelled to testify, such a case would inevitably collapse, mirroring the fate of Virginia Giuffre's case against the Duke of York, which also collapsed while the Queen was alive. While this does not preclude legal proceedings in the United States, ultimately, if the defense sought present evidence that the King had received contradictory information from his brother, the King would not testify, and the matter would reach an impasse. The monarchy confronts an existential crisis stemming from the Epstein scandal, representing one of its most severe challenges in a century. Throughout its history, the royal family has weathered numerous crises, including the abdication, the controversy surrounding Princess Margaret and Peter Townsend, speculation regarding the potential dissolution of the Queen and Prince Philip's marriage, and the death of Diana, alongside a myriad of other scandals. However, the degree of alleged criminality involved in the current situation is particularly unsettling. The notion that individuals of sufficient wealth and fame can simply retreat from public life and evade accountability does not resonate favorably with the public. Concurrently, trial by media is inherently flawed. Every individual is presumed innocent until proven guilty, and the rule of law must ultimately prevail. It is conceivable that the Duke of York, even if charges would be brought against him now, could still receive a fair trial within the United Kingdom. Conversely, the situation impacts victims such as Virginia Giuffre, who is now deceased and therefore unable to provide evidence, having reportedly been subjected to bullying and silencing. A payment of £12 million is not made without substantial reason, and the fact that the King was reportedly involved in facilitating this payment presents a considerable challenge. This sum was unequivocally regarded as hush money, paid in anticipation of the upcoming Platinum Jubilee, as no one wished to disrupt the Queen's celebrations. A highly significant SRI published by The Sun, authored by Matt Wilkinson, reported that the majority of this money originated from the late Queen and Prince Philip, with £2 million contributed by the then Prince of Wales. The palace denied this information off the record, but refrained from issuing an official on-the-record denial. Among internal briefings, the claim of the King's contribution was dismissed as baseless, strategically shifting responsibility on the late Queen. While alive, she was often presented as an exceptionally capable figure. Now, she is sometimes depicted as someone with diminished memory, an apparent effort to shield the King. Should it ever be definitively proven that the King knowingly authorized this payment, the ramifications would be enormously damaging the monarchy. The intricate and often challenging relationship between the British monarchy and the press continues to evolve, shaped by historical precedent, personal choices, and profound societal shifts. The ongoing legal battles, personal revelations, and alleged criminal associations within the royal family underscore a period of intense scrutiny and transformation for the institution. As public trust remains a critical affair, the handling of these intricate matters, from media engagement strategies, accountability for past actions, will undoubtedly define the monarchy's trajectory in the coming years. The enduring legacy of these events, scrutinized through the lens of a rapidly changing media landscape, will ultimately determine the perception of a family long accused both the spotlight and the shadows.